Hi, my name is Catherine Stevens, and I'm the School Programs Director here at Proctor's, and I'd like to welcome you to today's theater talk with the cast of Les Miserables. If you would like to go down the line and say your name and your role, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Melissa Mitchell, and I play Fantine.
Yeah.
I'm Matt Shingledecker. I played Angel Ross.
I'm Jillian Butler, and I played Cosette.
I'm Amelia Cormack. I'm in the ensemble, but I also understudy Madame Thénardier.
I'm Allison Gwynn, and I play young Cosette. And I play Madame Thénardier.
Okay, so I know we have two school groups with us today, so hopefully you have some questions. We have Dougalville and Schoharie. You want to start? Okay. Anyone else want to start?
Well, that was great.
Okay. Yes, right here.
Could you go back through your line and just give us some background on yourselves, like how you got into musical theater and some of your experience?
Okay, if you can go and tell us how you got into theater professionally, how it started for you, and what brought you here.
Sure. I've been doing theater since I was a kid. I grew up in Southern California, and I went to audition for a musical after school one day because my friend asked me to come, and I didn't know anything about auditioning for musicals, so I sang Happy Birthday because I didn't have a song prepared. And it was a children's theater production, and I got cast, and I was bit by the bug, as they say, and I've been doing theater ever since. But I started doing like regional theater in California as a kid, and then always knew I was going to move to New York to pursue it, and actually went to college for something else, to study something else, knowing I would still pursue it, and kept training outside of school. And yeah, I've been in New York for 6 years, and I did the Les Mis production on Broadway as well, so that was really fun to do, and I get to do it on tour, which is really cool.
Choir was a big inspiration for me, and also positive affirmation. That was helpful. And then when I was in high school, I auditioned for a regional show and got it, and got paid the whopping stipend of I think $125. And I thought, I'm rich. This is amazing. I can do this and get paid for it. This is wonderful. And then I took myself to college for that in North Carolina at Elon University for musical theater. And then I've been doing shows ever since. I got really lucky right out of college and did actually a show called Spring Awakening, which I toured here about 9 years ago, which was very fun, yeah. Yes, some of you saw that? Very cool. Oh, very cool, yeah. And have been very lucky and have been working ever since, yeah. Oh, you got one.
I grew up in the Bay Area, California, and I actually started as a competition dancer and was like full-on dancer, and then I actually got hurt, and I couldn't dance for a year, but I think that was a blessing in disguise because I picked up singing, and then I had to try something else, and that kind of took off, so I actually am very thankful that that happened in a weird way. But then I got bit by the theater bug also and went to theater camps, and then I ended up loving it, went to school for musical theater in Boston, and got very lucky, and I was here with Cinderella and Wicked. So this is my third time here, so I love it here, and I've just been touring. And once you start touring, you just kind of keep going. And it doesn't really stop until, New York, but New York is always there.
As you can probably hear from my accent, I'm not from here. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I was very lucky. My school did a lot of stuff, so I just started doing shows there. I then went to Sydney University for 4 years and did everything from the medieval music group to the musicals with the Drama Society. Then went to drama school at the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, which is where Hugh Jackman went. You're welcome. Then worked in Australia. I was in the original company of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the musical. And then I moved to London 2011, so nearly 6 years ago. I worked on the West End and lived in London for 2 years, and then I've been living in New York for 4.5 years. And I too have been here before with Kinky Boots. So, yeah. So that's them.
I grew up in the holler in Northeast Tennessee, so I didn't get a lot of exposure to theater as a kid. But I rented, the only musical that was able to be rented in my town was Gypsy. So I was like about third grade renting Gypsy, not really knowing what it was about. But I really thought, they sing in this? This is amazing. So I had been a fan of musical theater ever since then, but really didn't do a musical until college, and I did Rocky Horror Show in Theater Bristol, and in Bristol, Virginia, and then just kind of waited to find something else that I was good at, and failed miserably. So I decided to keep doing theater, and I graduated from East Tennessee State University, where you can major in NASCAR management and Appalachian storytelling. But I majored in theater. And then I went to Circle in the Square Theater School in New York and did their 2-year program, and then just waited tables and sang in bars, and I wanted to be a rock star too, so that I was like, whichever one works out will be better. And I got really lucky and auditioned at the Public Theater in a non-equity open call for Hair. They were doing a 40th anniversary concert in the park, and I got that, and then we went on to do a full round in the park, and then we went on to Broadway, and then we went to the West End, and then I came here and toured. We came to Schenectady when we did the national tour, and thank goodness, right? And then I was on the town on Broadway, and now I'm this.
Yes, in the red. Can you talk about the audition process? I'm assuming professional audition process, not singing Happy Birthday. Okay.
Happy Birthday is a great audition choice. Do you mean for this show specifically or just in general?
Kind of how long's a piece of string. It just can vary. If you're doing regional work, those of us that have done a lot of regional work, it's a very different audition process. You'll usually have a maximum of 2 rounds, maybe 3. For something like this, you can go back for round after round after round after round if they can't decide. And you can often find out last minute. I was very lucky with this that I think I only went in 3 times. So
I went in 6 times.
Yeah. I think I went in 6 also. And mine was interesting because I was on tour with Cinderella when I auditioned for Wicked, and then I was on tour with Wicked when I auditioned for this. So a lot of times now they'll take self-tapes, but then after you get past the self-tape, they want to see you in the room, so you kind of have to... I was a little sneaky. I never missed the show, but I always had to get a flight that Sunday night or the Monday, the day off. So you just have to sacrifice your time and your money to go try to get the next job. But it thankfully worked out. And I think it's a good thing when they keep wanting to see you. Even though it can be frustrating, it means they still have an eye on you.
Yeah, of course.
What about you?
Oh,
He's like, I just walked in.
They're answering the general questions so well. Sorry. But for me personally, I think it was 2 auditions. And I got cast a long, long time ago, so I've been new for a while, and it's always nice when you know in advance, because then you can sort of prepare and enjoy yourself instead of worrying all the time about when the next job's going to come.
I was just gonna say a little piece of my favorite audition advice and also performance advice, before an audition, rehearsal, performance, or anything in life, is you have nothing to prove and everything to share. Because auditioning is really weird. I think you kind of have to learn how to love it, because if you're gonna do it, it's the majority of what we're doing, the majority of the time you're auditioning. So if you don't like it, that's gonna be pretty rough. So you have to find a way to enjoy it as much as you can. And for me, that's about focusing on the material and the character, even if I'm doing my own song, and just kind of immersing myself in that and reminding myself that I'm not going in there trying to prove anything, but to genuinely share what I do and to uplift them, whether they want me for the job or not. That's the reason why we do this. So it's helpful to kind of stay in that perspective, as opposed to trying to prove yourself, because that's hard,
And the other thing is as well that I find I've had the luxury of working in 3 countries, and the audition process is very, very different in all of them. But the thing that I will say, in America, they want you to be the person. When you walk in the door, they want you to be the right person, because if you're not, then they have to keep looking. So I have found auditioning here, people are generally so friendly, and so just remember that, you know, it's not necessarily about you impressing them, it's about you being yourself, because they want to see you. They don't want to see you trying to be the part. They want to see what you can bring to that role. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yes, in the gray.
What I hear in all your voices is that passion. How much does the audience contribute?
Oh, something you hear in everyone's voice is their passion. How does the audience contribute into that passion for you?
Well, comedy-wise, you guys do most of the work. Because performing comedy in a vacuum, as you know, does not work. It's crickets and tumbleweeds, and you're not spurned to go on and do better. So comedy is very much a conversation between the audience and the person on stage, and so an audience participation is very much needed. So, thanks.
I think especially with a show like this, it's 3 hours of nonstop singing, and I'm not even on the barricade, and I get exhausted for the people that are. So just having an audience that is so present, you can really feed off that energy.
Yeah, and I also think because we go to so many different places, we can get spoiled sometimes, and just because the audience doesn't go nuts compared to another city, I like to say compare and despair in general, sort of as a motto. But just to always remember that applause and things like that is a social construct, depending on where you are and what the day is like and stuff like that, and just how it goes. So I always try to remember it doesn't really matter how much, I guess, applause, or because I'm not doing anything funny, so that makes a big difference. But yeah, so I just try to always keep, you know, my head on my shoulders about, okay, well, they're quiet today, but that doesn't mean they don't love it. They could be quietly crying in their seats. You know, I don't know. And I hope so. Yeah, you can't hear smiles. That's good.
Yeah, you can't hear smile.
Yes, in the black.
You've all gravitated towards New York. That seems pretty obvious. And I would guess Broadway is the holy grail. What are the benefits to touring and between touring and
So you all seem to gravitate towards New York. What's the difference between being based in a city like New York and touring nationally or internationally, for that matter?
As
I look right at you.
I've been very lucky. I haven't performed in New York yet. So that's I will say that's the reason I moved to America, was to be in New York. If the Broadway was the West End, that's where I'd be. You're right. It is the holy grail, and that's the reason. One of the things that's so exciting about New York is it's not just our field, but finance, photography, cuisine, fashion. Everyone moves there to be the best at what they do in the world. That can make it's one of the most supportive places. It can be competitive, but it's also one of the most supportive places I've ever experienced, for sure. The beauty of touring, as someone who's not from here, I have gotten to see so much. I think I'm at like 32 or 33 of these United States. And getting to see that is amazing. Also, there can be financial perks to it as well. Like, obviously, you know, Broadway is the be-all and end-all in terms of financially, but there's also, it's very easy to save when you're on the road. And having the chance, I think, also to, I don't know about you guys, but kind of experiment, knowing that the scrutiny from New York isn't necessarily there, that you can play, see what works with different audiences, and it always keeps it fresh, because you're not seeing the same audience every night. Just going back to what Matt was saying about, we just had an experience where we played Montreal and Ottawa, and I have to say, you guys are such a refreshing, because you're giving us this beautiful energy, because Ottawa was quite conservative with their response. Montreal was like a freaking rock concert every night. But like Matt said, that doesn't not to say the people in Ottawa weren't enjoying it any less. So I think it gives you that opportunity to go, oh, okay, well, that's not working here. This joke, I don't know, Alison could probably speak to that more about certain jokes or certain things working in certain places rather than others. But that was a very long-winded answer. I'm sorry, everyone.
I think, too, since I've been on the road for 2.5 years now, you don't really have a home, but you have to find little ways to make it a home in every city. And it's really hard because we're traveling on our days off on Mondays. That's usually our travel day, and especially now we're doing these one-weekers. So I think it's really adjusting to the new environment is what's challenging about tour, but it's also amazing because you get to see the see the world and things you wouldn't see. But staying healthy is definitely a challenge that we all try to conquer.
I think the best thing about touring versus New York theater is the room service and having a maid.
Woo! Yeah, they've covered it pretty well. I would also say I miss a little bit, other than the stability of home, the fact that we can go to class, the fact that we can have a voice teacher, we can sort of continue our training, which is helpful, and that's very hard to do on the road. Keeping healthy is sort of like your number one priority, which sort of takes up most of the time. And also to do new developmental work, because when you see a musical that comes to you, it's been workshopped for years and years and years before it ever even gets to off-Broadway or Broadway or especially a tour. And to be part of those things at the ground level, you get to sort of create something that's never been created before. So I really enjoy that, and that's one of the things you miss when you're on tour. Yeah.
You bring up a great point that a lot of people I don't think realize is actors are always taking classes. You're always taking dance classes, voice classes, acting classes, that you're never really done learning your crafts. It's something that you're always developing.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think a lot of people actually don't do that, which is interesting. They sort of stop and think, okay, well, I've arrived. But I think you can stay stagnant in that way. I like to think of it, the analogy of an athlete. You know, an athlete wouldn't not have a coach or a personal trainer or all the things and a specific coach for maybe their position, and then an overall coach. You know, so it's a lot of people that help us do the thing that we do on stage. It's not just raw talent that we're just lucky and blessed to have. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of people that helped us along the way.
Yes.
I will say, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Please.
Just further to Matt, I will say also in New York particularly, people take class all the time because of its competitive edge. So everyone's doing it, whereas it's not like that. Like UK and back home, it is like that. People settle a lot more. They may have a singing teacher, but New York is, again, it's that because of that fierce competitive edge, you've got to make sure you go to class to keep your skills up, because the casting director may change, especially like film and TV class. If we've been doing theater for a while, you haven't done film and TV for a while, then, you know, we've been out of the loop, so you've got to constantly stay relevant, which I know sounds, but anyway.
Yes, in the blue fringe jacket.
Between your weeks of rehearsals and then going on tour, how long are you guys all together?
Oh, how long are you together as a cast with rehearsals and being on tour and performing?
All the time. You know, this becomes your family because you're away from home, and we work 6 days a week, and we travel on the day off. So, you know, we never don't see each other. I mean, we always see each other.
But right, in terms of weeks, I think for rehearsals we did did we do 4 weeks of rehearsals in the city, 4.5 weeks in the city, 2 weeks of tech in Providence, and then we opened in Providence. And now we've been on the road for about 5 months, 5.5. It'll be 6 next month. Yeah, yeah. So we've been performing since September. Yeah.
All the way in the back. What is the most challenging part about making the decision to pursue theater professionally? It's very hard. I don't know if they figured it out.
Many challenges.
I think for me, it was learning to accept being rejected and knowing how to let it go. Because a lot of the time it's really not up to you. And I think the mindset of if I walk in the room and can do my best going back to auditioning, if I prepared as much as I can let it go a little bit easier. And it's not always easy, but I think that was the hardest thing to learn about choosing a career in this, is that you're going to get more rejection than you do acceptance and getting the role, you know? So I think that was the hardest for me. But it's so worth it. If you love it, it doesn't matter.
And that's the thing. I think you have to really, really want to do it. Because me, for example, I'm 37. I knew from quite a young age I was never going to be a Cosette, or you know, like I was never going to be the ingenue. So I knew that the roles in my life are going to be coming a little bit later. So I just keep going because I'm not quite where I know I can be yet. But you got to be in for the long haul. And if you really, really, really believe you can do it and want to do it, you got to hang in there. But it can take time. But yeah.
I guess when you asked that, I didn't think about a moment that, I guess there were moments where I really was like, okay, I'm choosing to do this. But I also kind of think of theater as something like, it's not a permanent decision. Like, you don't have to decide that for like the rest of your life. And I think it's an amazing career because you can do it and you can keep pursuing it, and then other things can happen in your life. For example, I've had a couple friends who are on Broadway with me who have had babies in the past year, and who took a year off to focus on motherhood, and now they're coming back and auditioning again. And one of my friends was like, that's what's amazing, is that I could do that and be a mother for that year, and the business is still there. She can still audition and kind of choose to come back into auditioning. Of course, there are like, difficult things to that if you, not like losing momentum, but you just, you have to hop back in again and be like, okay, here we go, I'm diving in again. But the thing I think that's kind of beautiful about theater is that it's always there, and it's not like this permanent, like, okay, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life, and now I have no choice to do anything else or do. So I think that that's a beautiful thing, and it's good to always be checking in with yourself and evaluating, is this still, there are a lot of sacrifices you have to make for this, like holidays and weekends and family things. And so I think it's good to always let yourself evaluate and decide, are those sacrifices worth it? Yes, right now they are. Are they now? Maybe not. And I think that's a actually really freeing thing about this business.
All right, we have one more question. Perfect timing. Do you have any strategies when you approach a new character or a new role?
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow, I mean, that's why we go to class, for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So I wish there was like one easy thing. But to start with, I think it's, for me at least, the first thing I want to do is, by rote memorization without any feeling, know the lines back and forth. Just so they are in your mouth, they're in your body, so that then when you start to play and you start to try to find things, you can put subtext underneath those things. That would be where I would start.
Oh, thanks. I was going to say, just specifically for a show like this, what's incredible is that we have a novel that's incredible by Victor Hugo, and the characters are written so beautifully and so fleshed out, and it's wonderful to get to do a show like that has a novel like this. And I have done 2 different roles. I've played Cosette before, I understudied Cosette, and I've played Fantine, and I have been in auditions for Eponine before. And so I have a novel that literally has different colored tabs for all of those characters, because I went back to it. First thing I would do when I knew, okay, I'm auditioning now for this character, is go back to that novel. And it's rich. And you don't have to do, you can come up with your own portrayal, but for me, that inspiration feeds into my performance. And now, having done probably, I think I'm around like 1,100 performances of this show in different roles, but there are moments when I all of a sudden, some sentence from the novel will come back into my mind on a Thursday matinee when I'm doing the same thing I've done so many times, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I can use that in that moment. And to have that kind of like foundational source material is like really exciting, and a really big blessing with this show in particular and a lot of other shows.
I think the challenge with the show, too, is that it's been done so many times that people all have their opinion on how the character should be, and it's really evolved, and I think our production is a lot more contemporary than it's been done in the past, which I think was also really fun to bring our own personalities to it, especially playing Cosette. And I had a teacher once tell me, if you don't make a choice, the wrong choice will happen to you. So I really think about that when I'm trying to develop my character and my Cosette, because everyone is different, and I don't need to compare myself to someone who's done Cosette in the past, because no one else can be me.
I'm a huge backstory nerd, so being in the ensemble, we get the chance to be lots of different people, but because going back to what Melissa was saying about investing in the text, the way that I do that is create this world for myself, and I'm not going to bore you with the details, but basically all my ensemble characters are 3 different women, and they're 3 sisters, and so it kind of is this but for me that creates the stakes of, so for example, a moment like Turning, in my mind, I'm actually the madam who's come from the docks, who's come to Paris to mourn her 2 sisters who've both died in Paris. So while you guys don't know that, no one else knows that, it doesn't really matter. But to me, it means that when I put those candles down, I'm feeling something really powerful because I've invested that.
I was just going to say, it does matter, though, because that builds the whole world of the show. So that stuff does matter and contributes massively.
I had like this big inferiority complex about playing characters that I couldn't see myself in. Say, I had to do the seagull at once, and they gave me the part of Nina. And I was like, Nina? Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this. She's so different from me. What am I going to do? And some teacher told me to get that out of your mind and to look in the mirror. And the first thing, after of course reading the text and knowing everything about the characters that you can, but just saying, Nina looks like me. Nina talks like me. Nina moves and behaves like me. She just has this to say. So seeing yourself in the character, I think, is very, very important. And that way you can organically move within yourself. Be yourself. Who is the character? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Perfect
Yeah,
sense.
I love
and that helped me a whole lot, especially when playing characters that are totally different from you, to look in the mirror and say, I am Madame Thénardier. She looks like me, she talks like me, she moves, she has my same mannerisms. That is the first step for me in finding freedom and thinking I had to put on this whole other mask and be this whole other person. That really opened a door for me.
Well, thank you very much to our cast for joining us today. Thank you to everyone here for joining us for Theater Talk, and have a great tour.